In this podcast, we are going to talk about some news about FIFA 24. And yes, that's right, I said FIFA 24. Now, as you may or may not know, the license of FIFA in football gaming is up for grabs at the moment, or as it seems, and there has been some news about this. So let me shed some background story so some of you can catch up with the news. And I'll also give you some news that was revealed to us yesterday at this point in time when I'm uploading this podcast. So there's some important news right here about FIFA 24 and what's going to happen. So as you know, EA have produced FIFA games for football for a long time using the FIFA license. It's been so long that we've had FIFA games. You're going back all the way back in the 90s where we used to play FIFA on like Sega Mega Drive up to the N64. I remember like FIFA 98 and 95, all those games from back in the past, all the way up until now, until past, the 2000s and beyond. And we're in 2023 right now. And the FIFA license is apparently, as it seems initially, that it's not going to go back to EA for EA to produce the next FIFA game. Now, FIFA does take quite a long time for it to develop. Obviously, it has to be in the oven for quite a while. There is a lot to produce in terms of a FIFA game, which of course does require some manpower and some game developers to really dive in and make those changes to a new FIFA license. Now, FIFA licenses have been really exclusive to EA ever since back in the day, as I've just mentioned. But let's get into the news that has been revealed to us, because we have had some news about what's happening with the game and if we're going to get a FIFA 24. I'm very much enjoying FIFA 23 at the moment, so this is really important news. Now, we have an article that we have, and it's about something that the FIFA president has said in terms of FIFA 24. Now, as we know, there's been some controversy here, so let's get into this, and I'll try to be as clear as possible with the information that has been given. So FIFA 24 could be a bust, but promises an update very soon. So the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, I think his name is, as you have probably seen pictures of him from the World Cup, has been talking about FIFA 24. And this is basically what has been said on that matter. So let me make sure that I've got my glasses on for this one, because it's very important information that we all need to hear for FIFA fans and definitely for EA Sports fans. Now, EA Sports and FIFA announced in May last year that the 30-year partnership, 30 years, would be coming to an end following the release of FIFA 23. Most of us FIFA fans were very heartbroken about this, so definitely came to chime in and make sure that we're playing the game and showing our support of FIFA and EA. Leading the end of the mega popular EA Sports FIFA series, the publisher was quick to confirm its new football game series, EA Sports FC. So that's basically EA, who have developed FIFA games for over 30 years now. I think it's definitely over 30 years. Basically saying that FIFA and themselves, EA, had a conversation and they couldn't come to an agreement. And when that happened, the agreement that was met at that time was that EA would drop the FIFA license and they will create a football game that isn't called FIFA and doesn't use FIFA's licensing. Now, this can affect the game in many different ways because there are some privileges that come with the license of being a FIFA game. Of course, it's literally FIFA, the governing body that governs football around the world. So it's a very big company, as you know. Many of you football fans here in the UK will definitely know how big of news that is, and of course football fans around the world will also know how big of news that is as well. So let's get back in now. So there's more going on in this article because that's mainly a lot of the news that a lot of you already know. So Infantino was also speaking to the Electoral Congress in Rwanda, and that was yesterday, and about being re-elected for another 4 years as the head honcho, and the governing body was there talking to him about that. The 52-year-old spoke about plans for FIFA's upcoming video game series, claiming they will have news on it very soon. So, fans have been very vocal. I'm being impartial on this podcast, but I will be giving my opinion at the end on how I feel about it. And surely you should feel that emotion coming through when I'm talking about it as well. The new FIFA game, the FIFA 25, 26, and 27, so 24 wasn't mentioned in this sentence here, and so on, will always be the best e-game for any girl or boy. We will have news on it very soon. So he did mention he has a very, very big opinion on FIFA. From what he's saying there, he's saying the biggest e-game. So as you know, I think he's talking about the age rating of the game. So E is for everybody. So I don't think he's talking about it as in being an electronic game, but even in those terms, FIFA is still a really, really big game. But he does make a big point with what he's saying there in that statement. So he's basically saying that FIFA is so big that, of course, any girl or boy growing up is it's always been a big game for them. And it's for everybody, meaning that anybody can pick up FIFA and play, and they won't face any offense. There won't be any graphic nature. There will be no swearing throughout. There's nothing that will really give you a harsh age rating. So E for everybody. Anybody of any age can pick up FIFA. So he makes a very good point there, and that's part of the reason why FIFA can be branded so well, and why it's also so wealthy in terms of going forward in the future, because you can always create a FIFA game. Now, whose hands it's in, I do feel it can, put a stain on the legacy if you've put the wrong people in charge. If you get the wrong developers to develop a FIFA game and the game is absolutely terrible, you will then start to see, EA done a really good job on a lot of the games, keeping in mind that EA have developed these games for a long time. They know what they're doing, and not to mention the momentum that they've been able to build with FIFA 23. FIFA 23, in my opinion, is one of the best FIFA games out there right now. If you go back, you can go back and play previous FIFA games and you will see the difference, especially with the live service right now. I feel like EA was just about getting the momentum of modern gaming right now. They were just about getting into their stride and working into the direction of what they could go to. So, and in that sentence as well, he also did not mention FIFA 24. So FIFA 24 was not mentioned in that sentence. He's solely talking about FIFA 25, FIFA 26, and FIFA 27. So there was no mention of FIFA 24 in that sentence. He very specifically says FIFA 25, 26, and 27. So, and another thing as well is about, there's some leagues that have been missing from FIFA games, and there have been separate games for those leagues. So there is things that are missed out that haven't had a chance to shine yet in an EA developed FIFA game. So there are more leagues and more things that you can see that EA want to do with the FIFA license. So it's like, there's a lot more there. Let's continue with this article because there's more here. So if you were one of the people who were looking forward to FIFA 24 over EA Sports FC, then it looks like you won't be getting it soon based on Infantino's comments. So this is basically the article writer I'd like to give a shout out to. So let me get up to you for a second. So it's Lewis Barton, I think it was. I think you are a politician, not a game creator, but they've stated that you're a game creator. Went to go and look for you to give you a shout out, but yeah, I can't find you on social media. So the thing about that statement that I would say is more so that, yeah, he is mentioning certain things, and yes, there has been speculation that the next FIFA game might drop the FIFA license. So the next EA developed football game might drop the FIFA license and be called EA Sports FC. But very specifically in that sentence, he's not mentioning FIFA 24. And I also think the reason why that is because any smart businessman, really, if you're looking at the momentum that FIFA 23 has right now, it's ridiculous. Like you can literally have one player change in something like FIFA Ultimate Team that is so big that you can post about that one player change on any social media and grab a lot of attention, a lot of eyes, and a lot of income revenue stream from that one change. That's due to the effort that's been put in. That doesn't just happen. Yes, football is huge, but the way that the game is going to be played is very important in terms of a game being a success. You can have football leagues and games being a success regardless of what the game's doing, but the game can amplify and they can complement each other. So actual real football games do affect how EA Sports FIFA 23 is played. There are many different elements to it. For example, player stats. We all know if a player plays well for quite a long time, then their stats in certain areas will be considered for their FIFA stats. You can literally see football players reacting to this. So there are many football players that hold their stat cards, and you can see them on social media proud of their stat cards sometimes. And you can see your favorite footballers or somebody who plays for a team that you might follow, and you can see them interacting with their cards, or maybe talking about their stats in FIFA and reacting to it and so forth. There's that side of it as well, that could be lost if it's given to another game developer. That is a lot of effort. That if you think about those player cards and those stats, you literally have to sit and watch the players and assess their play and really assess how the player is playing with different interactions. You're literally taking the science of football and you are like dialing it up to like 50x. You're 50x in the science of football, and there are gamers that are really big football fans that can go in and you can dissect things. For example, FIFA Ultimate Team is where you can do this. I have Erling Haaland in my squad. I also have, not in my main 11 though, I have used him in my main 11, but there's a reason why I haven't used him in my main 11, and that goes to all of the little elements of the game and what's happening, who I've got on the pitch with him. Now, he is a strong player, a very strong player. As you know, Erling Haaland plays for Man City, very strong forward. But with the who I've got up on my midfield, it wouldn't make sense if I put him in the formation that I'm currently using, because then what would happen, I'd never get the passes through to him. And it shows in my stats. I know who I've got on each wing, I know who I've got in my centre mid, and I know what's going to happen when I'm up against a high-paced team and I'm being pushed back, and then Erling Haaland sitting in that forward position on his own because of the formation that I'm playing. So I know who I'm going to feed it to and when and why, and I'm considering that when I'm up against a really high line playing team. So you imagine you're playing against a really high line playing team that's pushing you constantly, and then you're constantly having to counter attack, and you can't get your passes forward to Erling Haaland, and you're going to have to switch up your play in order to put him in that position, because he won't be able to make the run, he won't be able to get the passes from the runs, or he'll be pushing to the offside position. That dissecting and that sort of match of the day science I am now a part of, and it's definitely thanks to the game development that EA Sports have put into the game. I don't feel that I will be able to get that same dedication to football and in a football game without EA. EA are very good at sports games. It's one of their top categories of game creation in games. Electronic arts, one of the biggest things that they create is sports games, and this is the reason why they don't mess around. They consider all of the science, all of the attributes, every single game that's played. I have a ones to watch Nunes. So I'm picking strikers here because it's easier to dissect a striker's performance, because if they perform well, it shows, and it's big and you can see it, and it's flashy, because when you're scoring flashy goals, everybody can see it. When you're making runs that are successful, everyone can see it. When you're a striker, you're exposed in terms of your performance. You can't sit and sit comfortably and sort of what's the word I'm looking for? You can't slug through a game as a striker, because it's your job to score goals or get open looks on goals, at least get into the right position for those goals. If your defenders are scoring more goals than you, then guess what's going to happen? Your manager's going to be like, you've got to change position, or we've got to take you out of that position until you start scoring goals. Strikers know this on the pitch, but I also know this, not just from playing the game growing up, but also knowing that by playing FIFA. So that sort of thing and that football mindset is really hard to capture in a game. And if you get that wrong, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of football fans that will dissect and destroy a game that does not do that well. Because when you're removing the FIFA license from the king of sports games, in terms of EA Sports, in terms of definitely football, if you remove it from them, you're going to have to then place that somewhere else. And is there a game studio that can really do what EA have done with FIFA games? There are some that you could consider that have made other sports games, but it wouldn't be, in my eyes, an easy task to complete to the standard in which EA Sports have done. It's a really hard category to crack into. If you with football and sports, I mean, I know a content creator, me and YouTube were talking on social media with another content creator who makes American football content. And it's the same with American football as well. Like, there are a lot of fans who will not appreciate a slug of effort. But when you're, it's literally with sports games, the standard is so high and the bar is set so high that if you're not playing the game or enjoying the game, let's say specifically enjoying the game, then you are going to have a bad opinion of it if you hold it to a high standard. But because what's going to happen is you're always going to have something negative to say, because you're always bartering with that you're always pushing that line. You're pushing that line up. So especially as there's a lot circulating through football. You have football the business, you have football the science, you have football the enjoyment as a consumer, you have football as the customers of your favourite squad that you follow, and you get your season tickets and so forth. And if things that you want from the game are not in the game, I guarantee that you're going to be very, very upset. And I guarantee there's going to be a lot of, because gamers are a broad category, and it's broadening, it's getting bigger. As the gaming industry is growing, the category of what gaming is broadening. And with more technology that is coming into development and being developed now, it's going to explode even more, because you're going to have a lot more eyes that previously was not gaming enjoying and participating in these games. For example, I know some fans of football that I've spoken to that didn't know about the things that I'm doing right now in FIFA 23. They had no idea it existed. The reason why they didn't know it existed is because they didn't previously respect what gaming was. Nothing to do with EA, and definitely nothing to do with FIFA. You know, FIFA performs. You go to a football game that you know that if it's run by a governing body by FIFA, you know it's going to be a good league. You know what's going to happen is going to be high quality. It's part of the reason why the game is so successful, because you're going to get those performances out of players. You're going to get a certain quality from certain leagues. There's certain rules that will definitely be followed. The governing bodies will come in and step in parts where they need to, and shareholders and so forth, of where things need to be changed and move around, or some travel comes into. There's a lot that comes into the game of football, It's not just what's on the surface level. It's not just what's on the pitch, even though every blade of grass does matter. And somebody literally just comb the pitch, depending on which club you go to. The pitch is tended to in a specific way. All these things are really important. The brands as well that EA have had to have done a good job in carrying with them in the game. That shows, and as said, they're just getting into the stride, they're just getting the momentum up, and to literally cut it off now is more or less like cutting the lifeblood of the gaming side of football, in my opinion. It's literally the top. You can't, where are you going to go? Like, what's the next direction? Like, where is FIFA? Where would FIFA be like, okay, FIFA 24, who we giving the FIFA license to? Who would you give it to? Who would you be, like, honestly be like, okay, all this gigantic, colossal effort by EA and the years, decades of experience that EA have in terms of football games, you're just gonna give that to someone else. I'm like, you're missing the point. you're gonna miss the point. Now, maybe I mean, I do highly doubt that the president of FIFA plays more FIFA football than the gamers themselves. Maybe he's getting an opinion from the gamers themselves, but I think he might need a bigger scope. I think he might need to broaden the view there, because there might be. I think from that position in which the president of FIFA is in, I think he might be looking down in a way that he's looking at simply the professional reviewers of the game, if that makes sense. So there are the top critics, for it, if you will, and the top critics don't have a positive opinion of EA Sport games, and that could affect shareholders. But then there is the other side of it, where there are some top critics that absolutely love the game, but there is the majority of gamers as well that also have a voice and an opinion which do matter, and that should matter in terms of which reviews you decide to listen to. Because it's like, if the person is if the reviewer is influenced in any kind of way, like if the viewer doesn't actually play the game, plays the game once, if the reviewer doesn't actually dive into every game mode, if the reviewer hasn't played the game long enough, so when patches are released and things are given to the game, then you're missing out on what the game is entirely. If you play a game, not any game nowadays, I'm going to take a sip. Literally any game nowadays that is released, that is a large title, you can bet you that if there's a live service, the game is going to have changes come to it. There's going to be things added to the game. So how would you be able to review something fully in its entirety if you're still adding things to the game? It's not done. You haven't finished the game yet. Like, the game's not done. You've played the first patch, the first season. If you play the first season, you won't be using the kits that I'm using in FIFA. If you're playing the first season, you won't have the same players available that might be available on a later date, because you could have player changes that are added to the game. For example, ones to watch. Now, with the ones to watch, that type of player is constantly changing. I'll mention my Nunes again. The reason why Nunes is in his position, because if he plays good, then on my squad, whoa, this geezer can smash it with his runs, and he can actually make those goals, mate. So, Liverpool fans would love that, but even non-Liverpool fans would also love that. So if Nunes plays well in his league games, my stats for my Nunes will change accordingly. If he consistently plays well and he's making lots of passes, then his passing stats will change accordingly. That's what a ones to watch is. That's why I made that video, so everyone can understand what a ones to watch football player in FIFA 23 is. Those ones to watch cards in FIFA 23 are some of the best, in my opinion, some of the best to have, because it really makes you continue to watch the games. I know that if I'm talking to the Liverpool fans that I know, I can, even if I haven't watched the game, I can ask them about it. Yo, how did Liverpool do? Did they do that? Oh, okay, cool. How did Nunes play? So then I'm focusing on how Nunes plays, even if I'm not a fan of Liverpool, because I know that if he plays well in certain in the position that he's given, let's say there's two strikers up front, in the position that he's given and on his right foot, then I know what's going to happen with his stats. If he decides to make a lot of crosses for some reason, Nunes making crosses and stuff, then whoa. But more likely it's going to be how he's going to play with Salah. If Salah's on the pitch, then it can influence how Nunes plays. And again, one element that does change as well in FIFA Ultimate Team, which is a big part of FIFA, is, of course, the chemistry of your team. Now, I've managed to get 33 chemistry, and I was really proud of that. I don't doubt that other players that have managed to do that wouldn't be proud of that as well. It's an achievement. If you've got a squad and you've got that 33 chemistry, it gives you a good feeling, because you've managed to literally put yourself in the manager position and make that achievement of, I have put people in the right positions, I've made sure that they can communicate on the pitch, and I've also made sure that the league that they're playing in is potentially the same. So when you're doing that, it's like you're literally in that manager position and considering things about the players and how they can communicate and play on the pitch, because it will change. If somebody is like olale to a German player, they're going to be like, what are you on about? So like that does play out on the pitch. A football, things don't, then you're thinking about how managers think about how players can communicate on the pitch. If a manager is telling a player to do something before they step on the pitch, on the green, and then they go onto the pitch, but they haven't understood a word that the manager said, then they wouldn't be able to perform what they've been told to do. And if they're, communicating it back to the captain on the pitch, or the captain has decided to do something slightly different because of the communication on the pitch, then you can break the play and you can break the strategic push that they were going to do. For example, if you're counter-attacking, if you're deciding to push a high line, or if you decided to work your way up the left wing because of a player on the other wing that's causing you issues, or you've come up with a tactic to try and get around a defender doing something, then you will know if you're able to communicate it. And that also comes into play in FIFA Ultimate Team as well. Not to mention, we've spoken a lot about FIFA Ultimate Team, but all about the there's other game modes as well that also do add to the game. So there is more on the article. I kind of just went, this flowing out of me there. So there is more on the article. It says, no FIFA 24. How can FIFA compete with EA Sports FC? Now, I've just literally spoken about that. That's literally one of the main points that I want to make in this podcast here today. It's who in the gaming industry are you going to get to compete with EA in terms of football games? It doesn't, even if you remove the FIFA, I don't want that to separate, because it's so strong together. It's like that stronger together. Like, you know what I mean? If you separate, it's like then you've got a FIFA governing body with the licenses that look great when they're used, and then you have literally the developers that are the best at developing the football games on the other side, and it's like, why would you? That's probably not a good idea. Because then what's going to happen is, would you pick up the other FIFA game? Which one would you pick? You've got because in the game itself, as I've just mentioned, the reason why EA are at the top of football gaming is because of all of that what I've just mentioned. But then with the FIFA license, if you give it to somebody else, you're not going to be able to do that. I can't see somebody else being able to literally dissect the game in that way and provide that. So it's like, if you got the two sides then competing, which are you going to pick up? Are you going to pick up the ones that look like the players, but you're missing all of those elements and all of those things that really not look like the players, but are able to use the things that the license provides? Or are you going to use the one that has the science of the game, the high prestige of what football gaming is, at the absolute top of football gaming, with all of the science, experience, the strategic, everything, like, you know what I mean? The game modes, like everything that you would need to develop a great football game, just on that side. So it's like, which one are you going to choose? Football fans, I'm pretty sure, would choose the one. It's like an and an ahhing, isn't it? It's like, which one would football fans go for? Now, I completely get you're looking forward to the future, but even if you were going to separate from EA, I really don't think this is the right time to go. I don't think it's the right time to go and do something like that, because it just cuts so much momentum. It cuts so much momentum. What would make sense to me, if I was the president of let me get his name correctly. because I know you guys do follow him as well, so I don't want to mess the name up. Gianni Infantino. Now, if I was Gianni, I would be looking at it like, okay, there must be an agreement we can make to improve things in the direction that I want to improve it in as well. Because I feel like the reason why he might feel that way again is because of the top critiques of the game. And something about that top critique, I feel EA has said, would either require so much time or would require something that can't be provided by now or so soon. I think that's what it is, because I don't think it's on past achievements and past performances, because if it actually could be, that could be part of the reason why it might be on past performance of FIFA games, because it might be that some gamers, football fans, have spoken about FIFA in a way and said, we want more and we want this. But then open up a survey, listen to the creators that are here speaking for you right here on this podcast. Listen to us. My comment section's wide open for football fans and gamers alike to jump in and chime in and give their voice, let their voice be heard. That's the dialogue we're having here. That is literally the purpose of this podcast right now, to reach you guys. We have the dialogue and we can speak our piece online, safe environment. So you can do that. My comment section, jump in, please do. This is why I invite you guys to jump into the comment section, so that maybe a developer or maybe someone from FIFA can get to it, they can read it, they can get that data. That data's right there, and if they want some more insight, then I can give it. Gladly, I'll be like, yes, this is how many football fans said this. This is how many gaming fans said this. This is how people literally feel about FIFA 24. Not being in production or being in production. This is the talk. Now there's more to the article. We're going to go down it as well, because there are some really important parts of this article here. Now this was reported by a very credible source as well, which is the reason why it's definitely something to talk on. Let's say, it's obviously things can be speculation, because people, when you're the only person telling the truth, then it can be taken out of context, or it can be taken, for in different perspectives. So if you're given one perspective, then the one perspective is what you're going to consume. But obviously, with this being an article from a credible source, you'd think if they are not telling 100% the truth, or mixing and taking things out of context, then you put in your credibility on the line. So you, with a credible source, then you're more likely to get the truth. So that's the reason why I've decided to go through an article and not someone who's sort of like angry at the game and voicing their anger at the game. This is the reason why voicing how you feel about the game is also really important. So I've done that here, but I'm also reading from an article as well. So it's an article produced by a very credible source. Right, so we're dissecting the article and we're reacting to it, and I'm giving you the context as well as my opinion, and I'd love your opinion as well in the comment section as well. Also extremely important. So he goes on, and what he says on in the next point is the best esports. Okay, we've done that part already. We've gone for the best esports for kids, for everybody. Sorry, not kids, but he says boys and girls. Now, this could be a simple error from Infantino, and let's be honest, he said he's far from the shareholders' usual speeches. It's had this right. So what this article is basically saying is, he's saying that it might be, because he was just literally flowing with his speech, so it could be taken out of context, which is literally what I've just said. So he's and it also goes on to say that Infantino is also far from the usual kind of shareholder kind of public speech. He doesn't give like speeches like the shareholders will give on the matter. He adds a little bit of his flavor to it. So he's quite. He seems natural when he's speaking. I mean, sometimes it has to be translated depending on which language he decides to speak in. But of course, it's that's something granted as well. So tonality also could be really important. Try and dig for clues. If somebody says something in a certain way, it's basically what the article's saying. It's just basically saying, how he has come across is not as a formal shareholder. It's sort of like, So I'm not going to take that any more out of context. I'm not going to take any more out of that. You shouldn't either. It should be, until you actually hear the man speak, you won't be able to really consider what emotion he's got behind what he's saying. So you just have to take it at face value. Right, so as for now, we know little details about FIFA's upcoming game, apart from the fact it looks set to be kept known as FIFA, and then it says XX. So we don't really have a title for it, but then the title that's been given so far is EA Sports FC. Much easier game to make for EA Sports. So we know that would be an easier football game for them to make, as they don't have the pressure from FIFA. I've said already my opinion on that and why I feel like it's a good idea for them to split, but there might be some underlying issues behind it. EA Sports, the governing body, needs to find a new publisher, which is just like, so further on in the article, it says something about some assumptions. I'm not going to read because it's basically just an assumption on what's being said. Now, I'm not going to go for speculation. We're going to go for the cold hard facts of what's being said. And then the article is talking about if good games, and yes, I've just spoken about that as well, about good games and how, a poorly created game could actually hurt the brand of FIFA, and that's probably the worry. Now, as I said, EA Sports are literally the top creme de la creme. It depends on what's being asked of them. So there must be something that's being asked of them. Now, there isn't anything on that right now in the article. It says, after confirming 300 plus license partners would be in EA Sports FC, EA is reportedly closing in on the deal to be granted an exclusive license with the Premier League. The name may not be as catchy as FIFA 24, but based on first impressions, it's sure to perform much better than any game FIFA churns out. So that basically says that that EA have, in the midst of the uncertainty, have literally gone towards the Premier League and been like, we want an exclusive license for the Premier League. So as you know, in the game, the Champions League, the Premier League, and different leagues are a part of the game, and you literally have the Premier League branding throughout the game, as well as, putting it together with the gameplay. And it makes it a really immersive experience for football fans and gaming fans, because you are literally, experiencing the Premier League with it in your hands with your controller or at your keyboard, and you're able to influence the game. And that's the FIFA game, what you're doing, you're playing through the game and so forth. So an exclusive license means that nobody else will be able to use the Premier League branding in the way that EA Sports have the license they've gained. So as you know, licenses, it basically means like, how do I sum that up for those of you who might not understand? Let's say a copyright license, for example, because it's a type of license. It's not the full exclusive license of which I'm talking about. But let's say you have a full exclusive copyright to a piece of a piece of media. It could be a logo, because it could be trademarked, but it basically means that you own the rights, or in a specific way, to the branding and what it is in that industry. So in these terms, we're talking about the gaming industry. So the Premier League being owned as a branding exclusive license. So EA Sports will be able to use the Premier League if they have that exclusive license, but some other competitive game won't be able to use the Premier League in the same way. So that's basically what that is. There could be some ins and outs of that as well, because it is obviously a lot of paperwork that you would have to go through. The Premier League is a very big, prestigious league. There's a reason why it's one of the best leagues in the world. So there's a lot that goes into that just shows you how big EA Sports is and gives you an idea of how big EA Sports is. So that should really give you some context there. So we're going to scroll through the article. There's a little bit more here. No, so that completes that article. So that's the information that was given yesterday in terms of the president of FIFA's speech in Rwanda. So there is some information to unpack, and there is some things to be considered. But what I definitely want FIFA fans, football fans to do is to really get involved in the comment section so we can have what needs to be said out there. Because if gamers that are actually gaming in the game and playing the game don't speak, then nobody can really get any real context. Because if you pick something up for a day and you do it for a day, that really doesn't give you the full scope. It's not something that's like one finite item. You're not buying the item and then using it and it's done. You know, if I buy a bottle of pop and I drink the bottle of pop, it's done. There's no more to it. I can't put any more money into the bottle of pop to get more drink out of it. I would have to buy a new one. That's not how gaming works nowadays. How gaming works is you buy the game, there might be a live service that is applied to the game, and there's going to be more added to that game. It's within the plans to add to the game, and it's been planned from the release and before the release because you've got pre-production. Right, so there's all these things and all these elements that come to the game. You cannot really conclude the game unless it's something that has like a story mode, an ABC 1, 2, 3 A to Z story mode, and that's all that the game offers. Then you can judge the game because you can play it from start to finish. But you can't really play FIFA 23 to start to finish it when it's not done. So how can you make a full assumption on the game's performance when it's not done? You could probably go to a certain amount. So for example, in career mode, you can probably go to a certain amount. But if you completed career mode, you would already know what career mode offers. Now, I haven't completed career mode. I know for a fact that nobody can complete Ultimate Team yet, because it's impossible, because the game's got that much to it. You're not going to complete Ultimate Team. Like, what are you going to do? It's a live service. Like, you can't complete a live service. That's the whole point. It's still being added to. The live service hasn't finished yet. Things are being added to it. So you could literally focus on the transfer window alone. You have a transfer window element. You could focus on trying to get your favorite players in a certain quality. There's a whole YouTube channel right there. I'm gonna try and get all the team of the year players. Boom. Let me show you how I'm gonna do it. Boom. There's some content right there just trying to get the Totty players or the team of the week 19. I just played a game against the team of the week 19. It was difficult. I did play it on a high difficulty though. I did it in squad battles, and I scored quite a few goals. It went down to I won't ruin it for you just in case I upload those goals, but that's what I wanted to voice here on FIFA 24, because I do feel like there is still a chance and an opportunity for EA to really knock it out of the park. And I feel like from what the president of FIFA has just said in that speech there, I do feel like there is still an opportunity for them to have this game already in the works. He very specifically missed that out. We haven't had any spoiler news about it, which again is in my opinion a positive sign, because it means that the game might already be in production. As you know, they might have things already in place, but do consider how big that is, because FIFA 23 is still ongoing. We are still in the middle of the Premier League season. We're still, we're still experiencing the thing. Like, we're still in the middle of it. Like, we haven't done. Like, it's not end season. Like, we had the World Cup. Yes, the World Cup. Look how exciting that was. Like, there was a lot going on in the World Cup. I mean, that again. I'm not going to make any theories here, but that could be one of the reasons why the president of FIFA might have made a consideration to this decision. There might have been something within the World Cup that he was like, or didn't like the way something went, wasn't to his taste. Now, experiencing the game as well in such a way with FIFA, it was awesome. Like, so, there was the branding of the World Cup in the game, and you could play along with the matchups. You could buy like clothing for there was a lot to it. Now, in terms of competition, which I think is really important to mention, which competition really do EA Sports have in terms of a football game? Now, the only real competition that EA Sports have in terms of football games, I believe, is 2K. And here's why. See, 2K create, occasionally, NBA games, right? They create basketball games occasionally. Now, these basketball games, they have certain things that I believe EA can do for football games. The difference is that it's more heavily introduced in basketball culture than it is in football culture. And that's just because of the different media source outlets and stories that are really focused on in terms of football. So with football, what we tend to focus on are the press releases after the game and the press releases via the transfer window and specific parts of football. There are specific parts of football that, for example, Sky will focus on. And that's because that's their niche and how they focus on the game. That's how they choose to focus on the game. But there are huge content gaps in terms of football with press. So those huge content gaps can come from how a footballer trains, different parts of football culture that isn't focused on. But what tends to happen is that gets pushed to sort of documentary field. Now, with the documentary, there's only a certain type of media outlets that create documentaries. So with documentaries, that's going to be BBC, that's going to be Sky, and that's going to be the sports channels. Now, those sports channels, they come with packages, and they tend not to focus on streaming outlets where most of the FIFA gamers will be. So the only other real sort of online consumption for football that is sort of like really open for everybody to consume would be either content creators that are talking about the game, doing watch-alongs, or really and truly the same media outlets but just on those platforms. So you can't go to Twitch and see any other football content other than FIFA. You can't go to any other video site and see anything football related other than FIFA. And that's because FIFA allows people to have access to football. Right, so what's happening is EA Sports have allowed more access to football, the game, because when you can't watch a game because you can't afford to get the Sky packages or you don't have a TV, you might not even have a regular home place that you stay in order to watch the game. So your only media consumption might come from YouTube. Your only media your only media consumption might come from Netflix, a streaming service, or it might come from just being online in general. Your media consumption nowadays doesn't all come from television, but what tends to happen with football is it gets pushed to television. Now, there are some streaming services where you can watch football, and you can watch football through these streaming services. For example, the BBC has BBC iPlayer. That's one where you can watch some football. You can consume it through that media player. So you can access football games online by watching them online in that way. But in terms of everywhere else, there's no access to football. So for some gamers, the biggest access to football that we have is EA Sports football FIFA games. Otherwise, you're missing out on a heck of a lot, right? And all the glory of the game, all the history of the game is just missed. And if it's done poorly in terms of a new developer coming in and not knowing the game in a certain way, not knowing the landscape of the game, you will just harm that person's enjoyment of the game, because the person who would have enjoyed to, watch the transfer window talk or understand if there's even a transfer going on won't be able to consume it if they don't have those streaming packages. Do you get what I mean? So there are, I've even spoken about some of those streaming packages and how you can access them, but the game helps you understand where to get it. It's actually free advertising, right? So EA Sports have done a really good job at free advertising things. Like, so the brand deals that they have, they're able to advertise that these things even exist. I mean, there was a kit for Sky Broadband. I know a lot of people that I've spoken to about that, and they're like, "What is Sky?" And the reason why I know there's going to be a lot of people, there will be a lot of people that will say, "Yeah, nah, there's no way someone doesn't know what Sky is. Like, how can you not know what Sky is?" But DAZN is becoming very, very popular very quickly because it's accessible. Now, there are people that absolutely love Sky because they have access to it. But I do believe, like, it was like, even like the other day, I was talking to somebody about Sky, and they were like, Sky, not just Sky, you've got BT as well, and the BBC, and all the sort of really big media conglomerate companies that have, the ability to share football, but their streaming services aren't really well known. They're not as well known as people do initially think. There are a lot of new football fans that do not know about these services, and what's happening is EA are actually advertising them in the game, which is helping. Like, do you get what I mean? It's actually helping because it's like, where do we watch the game? One of the highest searched Google searches when a game is on is, where can I watch the game? Honestly, if you go through a search result right now, you can find the game, whatever game is on in the Premier League, whatever league you want to watch, you will find millions of people trying to find where to watch the game. And that is because the media landscape has changed, but football itself, in terms of its advertising, it isn't new age. It's just stayed the same, and that's because it's so strong. It's very strong. It does make a lot of money, and these channels are great, but there's a missing patch there with content where it's just not being advertised in the new spaces. It's not. You've got like certain things. I absolutely love some of the show, like Match of the Day, and watching Gary Neville for one. You're hilarious. Like, sometimes when Gary gets like churned up and there's somebody in the studio that he doesn't get on with, like Redknapp, like, the banter between these two is absolutely golden. But I do feel like people are seeing more of that now, because you can see that in places where it wasn't previously. Those presenters have done a good job with beginning to position Sky, as an example, beginning to position Sky in the right places of where it needs to be. There are places where that needs to be. I believe as well that women's football could do with far much more exposure. I believe that women's football is absolutely amazing. You know how I know that women's football is absolutely amazing? Because I started to play women's football in EA FIFA 23. And when I was playing women's football, I actually realised, the thing with women, they're actually like women footballers that have a lot of pace behind them, and they can whip up that wing like you wouldn't believe. And it's like there's a lightness, so the way they whip up that, depending on which player you've got, so you can really cut into the box. Women have a way, because they're more flexible with their movements, naturally, just being women. They have an ability to bend their body into a position, so when they're striking the ball, they're able to strike, depending on the player and the posture of the player and the size of the player. You can get some women that can really make some mad shots just because they've got the power behind them, but because of the flexibility that they might also have behind the ball. So then what happens is you get some mad shots from some women strikers that are like, how did she even get into that position in the box? You know how? Because she bent her back in a certain kind of way and put some power behind on top of that ball, and it went in. That's why. And with the male football players, we have a sort of, not a rigidness about us, but we have a way that we move differently. You can't shoulder barge let me give an example. I'm trying to give a really good example right now. Peter Crouch, So we go back to a legend. Most football fans all know who Peter Crouch is. Tall, strong, forward player. Really hard to beat in the air when he jumps. If the ball's in a certain position and Peter Crouch is there, if I try to get the ball from Peter Crouch in the air, I'm going to have to do my little leapfrog thing that I do in order to, make sure that ball does not touch that man's head. That is how that would have to go on. But you're less likely to have a tall striker on a women's squad because women tend to be slightly shorter. So when in terms of strikers like that, you're going to have like a 6'5", a bit higher. So we got like a 6'9" striker on a women's squad. It's probably not as likely, but you will have on a male squad, and that changes the game for when another team's playing against them. Do you get what I mean? So there's different strategies that are put into place based on a player's size and where they're playing on the pitch. And that's something as well that was been implemented in terms of like pace. With that, it literally just became a thing. Literally, this is what I mean by EA Sports FIFA 23 was just about sort of EA getting into the stride of modern gaming and about to implement even more like insane mechanics and AI to the game that was about to, you can feel it coming. You play in the game and you can feel it coming. Like the new pace system that was implemented in FIFA 23, the lengthy, for example, but all those sort of things were sort of like, to me, it feels like the top layer that is about to evolve. Like that's about to evolve. There's about to be more of that. There's a reason why Messi is quick with the ball at his feet. There's a reason why his size just come into play with it. Now he's extremely. You've got to know who Messi is. If you know football, you know who Messi is, right? If you look at Messi's size, and his pace and how he keep his ball control, his size comes into play with that. So he's able to take advantage of his size on the pitch. That helps him play in a certain way. If you and when you match him up to someone like a Haaland, you start to notice some huge differences. They're different types of players. They are different size players. Different things come into play when those two players are on the pitch. Which is also really important, and it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference to how the game is played and who's playing against who. If you've got a really stocky defender in centre mid, then you're going to have to think about how you're going to get around that stocky player. The size of the player also comes into play in terms of the game. Will another gaming company other than EA Sports be able to implement what was just about to be implemented? Because it's not about what's just here in FIFA 23, which is still ongoing. And I'm going to say that again, which is still ongoing. They're still adding things to the game. The game is not complete. It's not done. But would you really have another publisher that would be able to pick up where EA Sports left off? The answer is no. And the reason why the answer is no is because they're not done. They're not done with that technology yet. EA Sports aren't done with that technology. There's a lot with that technology that they're about to implement. You would have to have somebody, a publisher, that would know what was coming next in order to have a chance to compete in that field. In terms of when you're not playing in a manager mode. If you're not playing, then in the manager mode, it could be even heightened. So what it would do is it would push EA to higher heights either way. Maybe the way things happened and the way things played out helped EA be like, okay, now we've got to show some of our cards. We've got to show some of our cards, and we've got to show them who we are. Show them who we are. Because there are some really nice detail. I mean, every game has a bug season, let's call it. Like every game nowadays has like a bug season. And the reason why I think it has a bug season is because I believe it's implementing new hardware and taking advantage of that new hardware and the pace that you're able to do so. Because keep in mind, the platforms that you're playing on, if you're playing on PC or you're playing on Xbox console or you're playing on PlayStation, the platform, the hardware has changes, but then there are also software changes that happen. So when you're updating the game, a bug will happen when you've put something in a file, but of course there's an issue with some of the source coding or the code of the file, and that can cause the game to do something that it's not supposed to do, or at a slower pace, or not keeping up with the frames. That's what you call frame drop. Like, things like that will come into play, and that's why with live service games or games in general that are on these platforms, patches are released frequently. If you've noticed, there is a frequent update recently. When Xbox is going to update, the game developers will release their updates before that update, if that makes sense. What I've started to notice, this is on Xbox, by the way, that I'm talking about now, is that when you have games that are still ongoing on your console at this point in time, what tends to happen is I'll repeat it again, you will have updates of the game ready for the Xbox update. You have to be in communication with Xbox in order to know what's happening when you have a live service game. You cannot have a live service game and expect to have that game in the same condition or the same high quality from the start of the year to the end of the year if you're not paying attention to various changes that Xbox are making. Because and then there's the thing of, legacy games having FPS boost. What I mean in terms of legacy games in this example, games that, may have been of a previous generation that are trying to take advantage of the hardware acceleration that's available right now. That's what I mean by the legacy games. There are some Modern Warfare games that I consider legacy games, but also they can literally be about the legacy of how we got to the point that we are in right now. Well, that's how I consider it in terms of gaming, because those legacy games tend to be those types of games, those games that were of a previous generation or in between, as to how this game that you're playing right now, this new really well-made game, got to the place that it is right now, and it's part of the legacy, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, when you do have a bug as well, it does feel kind of weird. Like, I was playing completely off topic from FIFA 23. I was playing like Call of Duty last night, and I had somebody glitching into a car in a weird plasticine kind of way. And I didn't know if it was a bug or if it was just something that somebody was doing wrong with the game. Because when someone hacks the game, there are going to be some issues as well. So I think FIFA's also done a very good job at protecting the game. I mean, so it's what EA have done a very good job at protecting the game. I think EA have done marvelous at protecting the game. Now, I did see some content creators complaining about cheaters at one point, but the punishment that should be in place when you cheat in not squad battles, but in a championship competition modes should be high for the player. Really, it should be a deterrent, because you should, if you that's when you're starting to play for some really big money. So you can't really have somebody in those competitions that's cheating, because it's going to really harm the not only the reputation of the developers, but it's also going to harm the game. It's going to harm the community. It's going to either make people want to do it more if it's not handled well. So yes, pointing it out is good, because what that tends to do is it tends to let the developers know that their community is speaking up about an issue that needs to be dealt with before it gets too late. Because if it gets too late, then that's when it's an issue. Because then you'll have somebody in a competition that has not only owes the game compensation because of what they've done, but they might owe other people compensation because they've cheated them out of the position of being able to change their life. So that's also a bottom layer of things in terms of esports. And that's a really cool thing as well, by the way, that I'd like to mention. Like, the whole career mode I've spoken about career mode before, but career mode in FIFA 23 was going in a direction that was like, I can see where they're going, and I want them to keep going, and I want them to progress that. I spoke about it already. I've got a whole video on it. I spoke 44 minutes about that, when I'm talking about how career mode could be completely goated and what would make the career mode better. That is the content we need to put up so that developers can have a chance to see it. Be like, And what's great is when you guys are sharing that, it has a chance to reach the right people. The right people can watch that and be like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. Let's get that on our pre-production boards right there. That's, again, something else that can be implemented. Maybe there's some sort of communication board. I know that some developers have like a Trello board, but I don't feel like the Trello board can really be enough now. I understand that people don't want to get spammed and developers are really busy and there's things that they've got to do. Now, I do think that celebrations could be more. We could have more celebrations. That's one thing that I think we could experiment a lot more with, and maybe EA could do a lot more with in terms of like the game and having a lot more fun with the celebrations. Like they've started to do that, and you can see that you can't miss that. You can see me showing people how to do that. There are celebrations and more that have been added to the game that completely change the dynamic of when you're playing against somebody online with your favourite team, or you're playing against someone online with can you play somebody in manager mode? Like, just getting onto that point, I'm not sure if you can play against someone on manager mode. I haven't tried that yet, but that'd be really cool. Imagine you're just literally watching like the squads play against each other, but you're doing managerial things. Oh man, that's a completely different mode. I'm going to have a look at that in a moment. But yeah, that would be like, imagine you've got like a manager mode and you manager v manager. Dude, you could literally be like, yo, like in ultimate team mode, imagine you can just go into manager mode with ultimate team and you're just playing against another squad. And the AI is doing the game, and you then watch the game in the game. Oh, that would be so dope. That would be so dope. Imagine having Ultimate Team Manager Mode. Oh my days. Ultimate Team Manager Mode would be so sick. Sorry, just thought I'd mention that there, because that would be like you're playing again and then you'd influence in certain way. Man, that would be dope. That would be dope. And without simming, because I know that some manager football players, there's other football games like Football Manager. When people are playing those type of games, I do know that some people have time constraints and they decide to sim everything. Everything's just simmed. What's meant by that is basically you simulate the match after you've made the changes, or you might make a few subs after you've made a few changes. Then sometimes that's what will happen in manager modes, and obviously people simulate it because it's done very quickly. It's like you put your changes in, you put your formation, you put your squad on, you make your changes on your bench, and then if there's any cards, you influence the game in that way, and then you just press play. You just play through the scenario. You can put your tactics on the pitch and so forth. I get how normal manager games work, but I'm just saying with an ultimate team mode, oh my days. Yo, that would be sweet. Because you got like a complete your own squad. That would be dope. I'm just saying, like as a manager mode, that would be really cool. And not to mention the game modes, man. We haven't even touched on the game modes. So I think we need more fluency in terms of more options with choice in terms of like match setup in kickoff mode. Because when you play kickoff mode, you do tend to have for example, if I've got a game that's about to come up and I want to play through the game and I want to pick a time of day, it seems to be stuck. I don't know why. There's occasionally, if I pick certain games in kickoff mode, I'll have like 8 o'clock at night and I'll be like, well, I want it in like I want it at a certain time of day. Sometimes that will happen. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the I don't know. That I feel like there needs to be more choices in terms of match setup in that way. So I feel like there needs to be more freedom there in that category. I feel like there needs to be more of a play around. Now, again, in Ultimate Team mode, some of those elements I feel like can go into game modes as well. I don't know how everyone else feels on that, but there are some game modes there The wacky ones, for example, there's like a game mode where when you play the ball, if the ball goes out, the ball that comes back in has like skill attachments to it. like it will have like upgrades. So when your player touches the ball, they'll have like, faster speed or something like that. Like that is an actual game mode in ultimate mode, and you can play it, and it's like, dude, what's going on? Like my player has got like ultra speed because the ball went out, and then when it goes out again, you got something else. There's a name to that game mode. Right, so let me paint the picture. The game modes that we currently have. We have FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 mode. So obviously that was for the World Cup, and you can play through matchups in the World Cup. You can pick your group stages or play through semi-finals and finals, right? Then we have our quick play modes, Pro Clubs and Volta Football, Ultimate Team, Career Mode, and Seasons. Now don't forget you also have your training as well. Those are the sort of the game modes that are available. You can then go into your quick play modes, and then you're talking kickoff, online friendlies, tournaments, skill games, and practice arena. Now don't forget that when you go into Ultimate Team mode, you have different game modes there as well. There is a different element that comes in with the career mode. Volta mode, there are different game modes inside of Volta mode. Right, so if you really dissect what's available in FIFA 23 before FIFA 24 is even around, you've got a lot. There's a lot to dissect there. There's a different ways to play football there. With a Volta mode, you've got your clothing that you can purchase as well as your different game modes. And in quick play modes here, the skill games, because I'm going through it, I'm just having a look at it on screen as well while I'm talking to you. You've got so many different types of play scenarios that you've got. You can do your movement basics, you can do your dribble basics, you can do your ground pass basics, you can do your shooting basics, you can do your defending basics, you can do your scrimmage. And then there's a different basics, dribbling, ground pass, long pass, defending, goalkeeping, set pieces, shooting, and practice scenarios. Now maybe some of you players want to be able to select one player at a time in terms of being able to stay as the goalkeeper in like an online mode or something, or maybe you want more of a challenge in terms of your gameplay. I feel like some of the veteran, like the absolute veteran FIFA players, I feel like what you guys actually want is more of a challenge. You guys definitely want more of a challenge in terms of the different types of game modes you can play. Because I think what's happening is you're sticking in Ultimate Team a lot, and you're going for those updates, and you just not enticed as much to play different game modes. I think that tends to happen, and the reason why that happens is because there's just so much circulating through Ultimate Team mode. There's a lot going through it, and you tend to not feel like you can get the same enjoyment out of different game modes. Now, I get that a lot, especially because most of the updates do come and focus on Ultimate Team. So obviously, when a lot of focus is on Ultimate Team, and there's all these different amazing things in Ultimate Team, when something's below a certain standard, you as a pro FIFA gamer, you get kind of disheartened with the game because you love it so much that when you finding it difficult or something's happening, then you tend to get very upset. At the moment there's a FUT XP boost. You can get to like 30 rewards quicker, and members get this with EA Play for Season 5, which is like, there are perks there to help you and entice you to want to play the game more. You've got your Prime Gaming rewards. Now, of course, if you disconnect your Amazon Prime at any point, then you won't get that reward. I've done that because I'm not using Prime at any time soon. So that's the reason why I'm not getting a Amazon Prime pack. Moments could probably do with a little bit more. It could probably do with a few different changes maybe. Do a lot of people play moments anymore in Ultimate Team? Like, how many of you play moments? Those packs are the same ones you get in the store, which is probably why you aren't enticed to play moments in FIFA Ultimate Team. Now I can kind of understand that, because if you're getting it elsewhere and you can do other things to get it, that's a positive. That's not really a negative, is it? Like, that's a positive, because then you can go through Ultimate Team and the pack that you wanted to get, you can literally go through and get it in a different way. The amount of players you can actually fill your club up with is mad. I mean, I've got Richarlison in my reserves. Richarlison is in my reserves because he can't make it to the full squad of what I've got. I'd have to put him in a different position, and then it weakens the squad because he's a striker, which is just like, that's mad. Richarlison, the Richarlison, not like, not like like a reserves player from another team who happens to have a similar name. No, Richarlison, the Brazilian striker, like the actual Richarlison, bro. He's not on my squad. He's just sort of hanging around on the bench on the reserves. The Spurs player, the Premier League player, he just in the reserves because he can't make it past Haaland and Nunes. Now, I could put him in centre mid just for fun. It just seemed like, with his ball control, just sort of like skill up some players in centre mid there, just dip behind like in an Ericsson position or something. But I haven't done that. And it's like, I always sit there and I'm like, if, I'm doing a challenge in Ultimate Team and I need a Brazilian player up front, I'm like, yeah, well, okay, Richarlison can go right there. He can go in that position. And I like the banter as well with like people like for example, I've got Maguire right now. And people, there are some fans that have a bone to pick with Maguire for some reason. Like some football fans have an issue with Maguire. I don't know why. Like, like people just, I don't know why. At back right now, I've got Matip, Maguire, Stones. I'm not going to reveal my whole squad till you play against me, but I've got a pretty decent squad. I'm not going to lie, my squad is quite decent. Martinez in goals. Not going to tell you anymore. I've still got like icon Zidane, but I used him up because he was a lone player. But I had icon Zidane, which is insane. Fabio Carvalho, he's there ready and waiting. You know what I mean? But I can change his position. There's all these different elements to the game, man. It's just like there's so much in FIFA 23 to dissect and look into. Your probabilities in your packs. I'm not sure if anyone really has too much of an issue with that because it just, yes, it can keep you playing the game longer, but that's what every game wants you to do. Every game wants you to play the game longer because that's how the game's going to earn its money. Your qualm should be that I don't know. I don't know. How do you balance that out? Like, the game needs you to play longer. It wants you to play the game. You should want to play the game. Like as a player playing FIFA, you should want to play your favorite game. So like if you don't want to play your favorite game, why is that? What is making you not want to play FIFA? There must be something. You can't. There must be something that's like an honest reason. Because some people, when they lose to a player, they're like, I don't want to play that anymore. It's like, dude, you can't win everything unless you're the best. That's the only way you can win everything. The only way you can win everything is be the best. So if you're not the best, then you can still be very happy that you are a good player. You can find ways to be happy that you're a good player. But in the competitive space, in terms of every online game, unless it's up against a cheater, then I can't understand you being like, if your matchmaking is sweaty, then you must be a good player. You're just in a sort of tier where you're moving up, like, it's making you better at the game. And to that, I would say you can actually train yourself. You can train yourself to be better at a game. You can go through certain processes to improve how you look at the game and how you play football in general, because then you pick up the ball and go have it. you get what I mean? Like, so there is it's what kind of gamer are you? Like, because if you're finding it very sweaty, then the next thing to do will be to diversify the way you play the game, because what that means is you've played a game mode in a competitive mode so much, and it being matchmaking because you're getting better at the game, that you've played it so much that you're in a top tier of those gamers and you're being matchmaked with people that are actually at your skill level, and what's happening is your skill level is actually quite difficult because you're good at the game. Like, there's something to consider there. You can't be matchmaked with people that you are absolutely blasting, like, constantly. Like, because what's going to happen is you could dishearten those players from playing. I mean, you can. There is different game modes you can do that in. Like, that's the thing, that there are different game modes where matchmaking won't be an issue. Like, so that's the next thing to do if you're a top level player being matched with other top level players. Try different game modes. Have you diversified the way you're playing the game? Or are you playing the same game mode 24/7 and getting extremely good at it? Because then what's going to happen? You're going to be up against other extremely good players. I mean, like, to come off topic, a game I've played very frequently is Fortnite. Sometimes I have extremely sweaty players. Like, you have no idea. Like, you shoot them once and you've got like a whole mountain of mansions on top of you, not even just one. That does happen to me, but what tends to happen is I have to try to outsmart them. I have to think around how the player is thinking. Otherwise, you never win. You know, so there is that competitive issue, I would say, where the top tier gamers at the top of that sort of want to come down and play with everybody else. So there are ways you can play with everybody else. It's just you have to sort of, that does, like, do you always have to compete with everybody? Do you always have to, like, does it always have to be competitive if you're a top level gamer? You know, you should start thinking about that. That's one thing about, like, I mean, I watched like FaZe like struggle with this recently. I know that's been like a recent thing where FaZe have struggled with their type of gaming. Now, diversify the way you're playing the game. The gaming industry is getting a lot bigger. There's more people that are getting involved, and there happens to be some talents out there that didn't know that they were good at the game, and then when they actually pick the game up, hold on, they've got a career right there, and their career might be to take out a certain squad. That might actually be a thing. Like, have you considered that? Like, have you considered that their career might be, hey, yo, you know that really high prestigious squad right there? Yeah, my profession is taking those out and showing people how to take them out because they play in a certain way and they don't diversify the way they play. Have you considered that actually does happen? Because I reckon it does. Because if there's a lot of you and you are attacking the rest of the player base, then what's going to happen is people are going to figure out the way you play. But because there's a lot of you, so a lot of people are encountering you and you all play in the same kind of way. Like, maybe FaZe Clan need to, you know, diversify the way they're playing the game. That's just one thing that I think they could potentially do to help them in game. So if you're playing FIFA, and this is the case when you're playing FIFA and you happen to be in a clan that plays FIFA in the same way, have you not considered that people have figured out the way you play the game? Because people are evolving in gaming. People are evolving in gaming, bro. Like, people are getting a step ahead of the curve in terms of what type of players they're encountering, and if a type of player that they encounter does the same type of gaming technique against you, no matter what game they play, then you're gonna figure it out. So it just might be the case as well, and also being matchmaked with a certain type of player. You need to think your way out of the box, which is difficult. I'm not even gonna try and act like it's not difficult. It feels like it doesn't matter what competitive game you play, because the gaming space is just becoming so loaded with more gamers. What's happening is you're encountering really smart thinking. Like, everyone's getting smarter in terms of games. Like, it's like and then when you pick up that, if you put that game down sometimes and then you pick it back up and you're behind because there's been some new technique that everybody has decided to start using, or you know, a different skill that all of a sudden you just can't get your head around. Yes, it can be frustrating, but that's going to happen in most competitive games, and especially going forward with the way things are, it's only going to get, like, you know what I mean? It's only going to go one way. Like, you're only going to, like, be facing sweaty players in some games. That's not to do with the game. That's more to do with the player base. Like, the player base can just improve, bro, into the point where it's like, yo, it's like, for me with like, for example, Fortnite, FIFA's another one. Like, I've been improving in FIFA. Every time I play a game of FIFA, I'm improving. I'm just improving. I know that some of like family members that I know play FIFA all their life. I know right now I can blast a lot of them. Like, I ain't even gonna lie. Like, I know family members that have played FIFA their whole life. Right, I know that if they come up against me in a game right now, I'm definitely not laid down. Maybe beforehand, there might have been times where, someone might have got a scenario over the top of me for sure. I remember having a party there once, and I had one of my cousins who's absolutely badass at FIFA, right? Doesn't play it professionally, could have, right? And he was wiping everybody. And I remember watching him wipe everybody. He played his dad and wiped his dad. He wiped the floor with his dad in FIFA. He destroyed him, and I watched him do it, and I watched him laugh after it, and then walk off, and then go and get some more food and whatever, and have some fun at the party that I was throwing. I remember that time. I remember watching it, and I was like, bro's having fun. And I was like, I'm not going to step in, because it's playing on my Xbox. And I was like, I'm not going to step in and wipe him. Instead, I'm going to allow him to have fun. Like, sometimes it's just that choice. Sometimes it's just that choice of allowing people to have fun for the sake of having fun. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's that case, and it's hard to do when you're playing professionally. Sometimes when you're playing professionally, you want to wipe the floor with somebody. Now, I'm not saying I could have, but I do know that I didn't want to play at that point because I wanted my cousin to have fun. I wanted him to have fun. I was like, keep having fun. I'm liking this. That's the reason why I invited you here, to have fun. I was like, I'm not playing against you. I'm enjoying watching you have fun. And sometimes that's what you need to do. You know what I mean? Sometimes in order to, have some nice gaming experiences, and if you're hosting something, sometimes you have to sit back and be like, yo, let's see you guys have some fun as well. Because isn't that what you want, people to enjoy the game? So it's like, yes, when you're playing competitively, there's a space for competitive gaming, and there is a space for competitive gaming in FIFA. 100%. Football itself is a competitive sport. But knowing the difference between which arenas you're in, you need to know. Sometimes you need to know if you're playing ranked mode or you're playing an unranked mode, or if you're playing a competitive mode or you're not playing a competitive mode. If you're up against somebody who's decent and a hard player, you need to know if you can quit the game or you're going to lose any points when you quit the game, because people do quit the game and that can cause you to lose foot points. I remember playing, that's one thing that needs to be implemented, and that needs to be fixed in FIFA 100%. I remember, like, I was obviously, because I'm going up in the pro games of FIFA, and I remember playing through some games, and there's some players that I'm getting matchmake with, and then I wipe them in the first 10 minutes of the game, 5 minutes of the game, and they're quitting. One guy quit because I scored a goal, and I'm like, why are you actually playing the game, or what is he doing? Like, so literally the game started, I got the ball, I scored the goal, he quit. I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to try to get a goal back or anything? And then the issue that I'm facing with that is that when that happened, the end of the game is like causing me to lose foot coins. So I'm not winning the amount of foot coins I would have if he stayed in the game and we finished the game. Now that's an issue for me, because then what it does as well is sometimes it doesn't register that player is the one who quit the game. And then what happens is my next game in that championship mode, I'm getting less foot coins, and I'm like, well, hold up, I'm getting cheated now, because then what's happening is sometimes it ends in a draw, which means that if I'm going up on that ladder, let me just quickly click into the mode, because I'm right here, so I can get the name of the mode as well, so you can really understand what I'm saying here, because this really did bother me at the point. And there was like a player that kept matchmaking with me. Foot champions, that's what I was looking for. It was on the tip of my tongue. I was playing foot champions. I was either playing foot champions, or it might have been division rivals. I think it was foot champions. Right, and in the game, people kept quitting, and I was like, well, you're ruining the game because I'm not able to progress. Like, you're taking the progression off me. so I'm not able to do what I need to do. And I was like, dude, why? Do you get what I mean? Like, so now it's taken away from, especially if I've used a player that's a lone player, because then it starts to get jarring. It's like, have I still got that lone day where I could use that player again? I've got Icon Rooney. Sometimes I put Icon Rooney on the bench. When he comes on, that's another lone day, isn't it? So if it's been wasted on a player who's, I can't get the full foot coins for it, I'm losing foot coins. I don't want to lose foot coins. Who wants to lose foot coins? Nobody wants to lose foot coins. Like, let's fix that. You don't want to lose your foot coins, man. Just mess everybody up. But yeah, that's another issue. Obviously, with players quitting. If you quit in like a battle royale game, it's very different. Now, I don't know how you would have a battle royale in a football game. I don't think that's a wise thing to. The only way I could think of how that could work would be like a random, every player on the pitch is being controlled by a player and someone needs to score. That'd be wacky. Could you imagine how, that'd be a wacky game mode. Imagine a FIFA game mode. Every player on the, there's 11 players on the pitch or something. Yeah. And every player has to score a goal to get through to the next round. And there has to be a certain amount of players that score. Maybe there's there's 3 rounds. That wouldn't make any sense because you can't divide it. So it'd be like odd numbers. So let's say you've got, let's say you got 10 players. Let's do it like that. And you got 5 rounds. So only 2 players can go through each round. Well, that wouldn't make any sense, but it couldn't qualify for the next round. So you'd have a Grand Prix thing or something. That'd be sick. Or if you for your first round, you've got 8 players who can qualify, so 2 go out, and then you've got 6 and so on, until you're down to the last 2. First player who scores wins that battle royale. Imagine that, bro. It'd be like FIFA battle royale. Like the idea, FIFA battle royale, just strikers or something. It'd be mad. Maybe the last 2 players get more of their squad on the pitch or something, and it's ultimate team mode, and you start with your first player who's a striker. Then it goes down to, obviously, you've got 2 more players that can go in the squad, so you wouldn't happen there. But you get what I mean. When there's a chance where you can have, there's so much that could be implemented there for a wacky FIFA game mode that somebody could maybe have a look into. Which would be hilarious, because you just have Zidane's versus Ronaldinho's and stuff, wouldn't you? You just have Ronaldo's versus Beckham's and stuff like that. It'd be really weird. It'd be you'd have Totti Messi's versus the Mbappe's all the time. It'd be quite funny actually, because you just imagine you've got 4 Mbappe's left in the squad, and the 4 Mbappe's are going up against each other for the battle royale. It'd be mad. It'd be a really good idea actually. Maybe someone can share this out so that EA Sports can get onto that, and we can have a FIFA Ultimate Team Battle Royale mode where you got to score to qualify for the next round. Man, I think that would be some madness. I really do. I think it would be nuts. Because if you look into some of the game modes that we've got on here, you have got that in the friendlies. I think the friendly modes are the experimentation. I think that's the experimentation. If we're going into friendly mode right now, you've got what? You've got public co-op match. You've got my playlist, Silver Lounge, Silver Cup. You've got Homegrown 11, Mystery Ball, which is what I was talking about earlier on, King of the Hill, Max Chemistry, Swaps, No Rules, Long Range, Headers and Volleys, Survival, which is practically what I was talking about. But it's different. When a goal is scored, a random player from the scoring sideline will be injected in from the match, excluding the goalkeeper. But it's sort of that's a one-on-one situation. Whereas if it was a battle royale, it's there's more players that are invited into that. So it's kind of on the way there. But what I've noticed as well is with the matchmaking on FIFA, it kind of to get multiple players into the match. Maybe something that needs to be worked on. So that could possibly be something that needs to be worked on. that I would say, yeah, if they wanted to compete with the Battle Royale space, they possibly could. That's literally, survival mode is right next to classic match. So it's literally telling you these friendly modes are where you're here to have fun with FIFA Ultimate Team. You can have fun with FIFA Ultimate Team. You just need to be in the right mode. So those pro players should definitely diversify the way they play in the game. Otherwise, you are gonna have a hard time constantly playing FUT Champions. Who's gonna you're playing literally for a career in FIFA there, aren't you? Because that's what those type of players tend to do. That's how they aim for their career. You play through the championship modes, get into esports, then you can see yourself on those FIFA channels. Those EA Sports FIFA channel esports competitions. So just some food for thought. I can talk. Some food for thought. Some hilarious moments here for you to dissect as well. I would say take your time and dissect them. Some audio has been quite nice here. I think I'm going to go play a game of FIFA right now and provide this context for you. This is the first podcast that I should have uploaded here. And hopefully you enjoyed. Again, the name of the podcast should also be on the podcast. I think I'll probably go for a specific name, see what I can come up with, and see how that works out. See you in the next one, man.